Alright, so today we're going to talk about substance abuse, and we will talk about 3 risks that people come across in their life or have genetically in them that make them at a higher risk for becoming substance abusers. First, we will talk about environmental, and first thing, environmental is stress. If you live a high stress life, then you are more likely to become a substance abuser. If you cannot handle stress very well, you will more than likely become a substance abuse. Not more than likely, you have a higher chance of becoming a substance abuser. And the reason for that is because you may use a substance once and it makes you feel good. It makes you forget about everything that you're stressing about, and you like that. So next time you become really stressed out, you go back to using that, and then it's just a pattern, and it keeps on going and going and going and going. The next thing we will talk about will be lack of family involvement. If you do not have a whole lot of family involvement in your life, then there is a chance that you become a substance abuser more, because you don't have that personal people that you love telling you what to do, what not to do, and like personal stories about substances and stuff that they have done, stuff they have not done, and just somebody to lean on and ask questions to. The next one is friends. If some of you hang out with friends and your friends use substances, then you're going to want to fit in. You're going to want to use those substances also. And that's not saying that you will become a substance abuser, but it makes you at a higher risk to become a substance abuser. And some of your friends may not become abusers just because they're genetically different than you are, and there's really nothing you can do about that. Another thing with friends is peer pressure. A lot of them may be doing it and you're like, well, I really don't want to, and then they're like, well, they peer pressure you into trying it. Well, you have less D2 receptors, which we'll talk about later, and then you have a higher chance to become addicted to that substance and become a substance abuser. Next, we will talk about personality, and one of the research papers that I read on this said that asked really was, does a personality mean that you have a higher risk of becoming a substance abuser? And it said yes, and then it said no. So I really don't know the question of that. I did more research, never really found an answer. A lot of people have different opinions on that. But some of the things that I did find out was that impulsivity is a big personality trait that a lot of substance abusers have, and that is feeling like you have the inability to control yourself, that you do not have the ability to say no to something that you want to do, and that leads to a lot of people having substance abuse problems. The next one is sensation seeking. If you have a sensation seeking personality, that means that you want more excitement in your life. That means that you want that adrenaline rush, and some people lean on substance abuse or substances to get that adrenaline rush and get that more exciting life with them. The next one is study one time, and it was great. It ties in more to environmental than it does psychological, but it was about, they did study on rats, and these rats they put these rats in a cage with water and food, and they have them try substances, and the rats that were just in the cage with water and food and that substance became substance abusers. Every single rat did. The next one, and then somebody was like, well, this isn't how people live. People live differently than this, and so they do not live in isolation all that much, So they put 5 rats in this cage with like a little circular wheel thing that they use to run on, and they basically said, we're going to give them stuff to do, we're going to give them fresh water, good food all the time with that substance, and they give them toys and underground stuff to go play in, I guess. And none of them became substance abusers. The rats did use that substance, but they did not use it enough for this research team to say that they're substance abusers. Third and final thing I'll talk about today is your biological makeup. Genes play a lot of role in substance abuse. Like I said earlier, if you're lacking D2 receptors, then if that is a dopamine receptor in your brain, then you are at a higher risk of becoming a substance abuser. Is that if you have fewer D2 receptors and you use a substance a lot, then sometimes your brain will shut down one of those D2 receptors. And if your brain shuts down one of those D2 receptors, it's going to take a lot more to get that same high, to get that same adrenaline rush that you're having before using less, and you'll have to use more, and that is when it becomes very dangerous for your body. Some of these mean that somebody's at a higher risk to become a substance abuser does not mean that they will become a substance abuser. These are just common things that substance abusers have with a lot of other substance abusers. Just because you have one of these does not mean that you will become a substance abuser. Thanks.